CNN senior White House correspondent Jeff Zeleny joins me now. Jeff, I guess just the basic question, is Tom Price going to survive this?
Jake, it is very unlikely that Secretary Price will survive this. There are two options right now. He could resign and the president could accept that resignation, or he could be fired. I am told by officials here that the first option is more likely, that that's likely what the president was referring to when he said there would be an announcement this evening. But, Jake, the president made clear repeatedly, again and again, calling him a fine man. But I asked him specifically if he had lost confidence in his secretary. Let's watch.
It's not a question of confidence. I was disappointed because I didn't like it, cosmetically or otherwise. I was disappointed. So I don't like to see somebody that perhaps there's the perception that it wasn't right. Well, I don't want to say, but we'll be announcing something today. We'll be announcing something today.
And, Jake, just as soon as we said that, we do indeed have breaking news here that the Secretary, Tom Price, has indeed resigned. Just as we were told it would happen, that he would resign, I'm told the President is prepared, of course, to accept this resignation here. This, again, as we heard, was about optics, was about the whole idea of draining the swamp, saving taxpayers' money. Simply was not done in this case. The President was disappointed, was furious at him. He was also, of course, Tom Price was the longtime House member, the physician who was supposed to lead the health care reform effort. That, of course, failed. He never was able to get that off the ground, and either the House or the Senate did not play that big of a role. So he now has offered his resignation. He has resigned, and, of course, the president, we're expecting to accept that resignation. And, of course, the search, once again, Jake, begins for another senior advisor, a new member of the president's cabinet. Again, happening on a Friday, as we've seen so many of these before, Jake.
Well, Jeff Zeleny, just an example of how great your reporting is. You're there telling us that Tom Price is not going to survive, and literally as you're doing it, the White House press secretary is sending out a note, and let me just read this from the White House press secretary. Secretary of Health and Human Services Thomas Price offered his resignation earlier today, and the president accepted. The president intends to designate Don J. Wright of Virginia to serve as acting secretary, effective at 11:59 p.m. on September 29th. Mr. Wright currently serves as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Health and Director of the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. But let's keep talking about this for a second, Jeff, because
Sure.
This has been a lot of turbulence in this administration, a lot of resignations. I wasn't prepared for this, but I mean, just off the top of my head, we had the National Security Advisor, Anthony Scaramucci. We had Sebastian Gorka. He fired, of course, James Comey. He fired, we've had a number of communications director. In addition to Scaramucci, there was Mike Dubke. Who am I forgetting? Sean Spicer.
I mean, Steve Bannon, of course, the chief strategist, of course, the chief of staff, Reince Priebus. And it's important to point out, Jake, that all of these private flights, these charter flights, the issue here, it happened during the tenure of Reince Priebus as chief of staff. And there was a sense that the controls were not being as closely monitored here. But this is an example. The president is making an example of Tom Price here. In fact, he told us earlier when he was leaving the White House that there would be no more private flights at all. He added a caveat. He said, if you can afford your own plane, then that's fine. So that's what, ironically here, Secretary Price is a wealthy man by any measure. His net worth is upwards of $10 million or so. Not as wealthy as some other members of the cabinet who have their own fleets of planes or planes. So he was using taxpayer money for these private planes here, Jake. But you are right. This is a long list of advisors here. I would not put Tom Price in the higher echelon of someone the president listened to on a lot of matters, but he, of course, was an early supporter, and he was one of those members of Congress who was brought over to join this administration, to be confirmed easily and to help get things through Congress. That simply has not happened at all here. So the president, as he left today, seemed like he was not sweating this too much, Jake. He wanted to, he said, look, he's a fine man, he's a nice man. Whenever you hear that on a Friday, it's a kiss of death.
All right, Jeff Zeleny, I'm going to let you make some phone calls and do some reporting and come back to us.
Sure.